Good morning to everyone. I am H. Biswas, Academic Counselor of IGNOU. So, today MMPH 001 Organizational Theory and Design. So, we have to take the second session of this courses. So, in the first block that we have already in earlier session we have discussed about the understanding the organizations, and today we have to discuss about the second block, that is our basic of the organizational structures. So, today we have to see the different structure of the organizations, that is the fundamentals of the organization's structure, then your factors of the affecting the organizational structure, that we have to see. So, that there are basically the two units are there in the block 2. The unit number 4 further actually see their process, design process, then your evolutionary process of the organizational design, then universal perspectives of the design, then your strategy structures to the process, the new perspectives of the organization design, and then the structuring of the strategies. And then after that unit number 5 we have to discuss about the factors affecting the structures, meaning of the organizational design, purpose of the organizations, and your organization, what are the key factors affecting the organizations, and how to develop the organizational effectiveness. Let's see. So, in the modern organizations are basically the open systems, and there are constant interactions with the external environment. So, that is why when you are considering the structures, you have to definitely it will take place the environmental, social, political, technical, economic and legal. So, all these things to be considered before implementing of the organizations. So, in order to remain the competitive in the organizational response to the pressures exerted by the environmental factors. So, responsive depends upon the degree of pressure. Normally, organizations respond by the formulating the new business strategies when the degree of the pressures is high. The changes in strategies often necessitate the change in the organizational design. And see, the organizational design basically becomes inevitable because the changes is required, and the structure has to be made accordingly, fit with the present situations. So, organization becomes turbulent and unstable because of the environmental pressures. So, as per the Burton and the Thakur 1995, they define the organizations designed as the total pattern of the structural elements and the patterns used to manage the overall organizations. The organization design should be seen as a tool and implemented to organizations, strategies and the attainment of the organizational goal. According to Barner and again 1995 again, that studying the structures of the organizational means analyzing the following. What are the following things? Number 1, how an organization is put together, who reports to whom, the degree of centralization or the decision making power concentrated at the top, and the extent of the rules, policies, regulations and the procedures in the organization. The changes in the strategies often necessitate changes in the organizational design. The design process, now we have to discuss about the process. So, Herbert Simon, he suggests that an alternative to the decision making and communication processes which produce the effect. Allen, he suggests that the 7-step sequence that could be followed to set the design process into action. What are the 7 process steps? Identify the major activity objectives. So, what are the objectives of the firm that has to be identified? Then the top down by establishing a scalar changes of the authority and the responsibility. You have to fix the position wise from top to bottom, what should be the tasks, they have to perform. Then 3 is the organizing the bottom up by the integrating the activities of each functions. So, what are the functions that should be integrated? Then decide what management positions are needed for each activity. What type of management is required? What type of positions is required? Identify the position in the group related work, then seek the groupings to ensure the balance in the distribution of the resources. Check whether the span of the control are appropriate or not. Then environment process of the organizational design. The organizations developed from small to large units by moving through 4 stages as per the life cycles, as we say the birth stage, the different birth stage, youth stage, then your middle stage and the maturity stage. So the process of the development is accompanied by corresponding changes in the organization design as per the Thakur 1995. Birth stage, this is the stage when the organization is created. Initial stages, the organization is informal, and youth stage when the additional employees are recruiting, there are a lot of people are working, the sales and the company's products or services increases, lot of warehouses or different units are increased. So, few trusted employees are involved in decision making process. So, there are now a few professionals and the administrative personnel in the organizations. Then after that the middle stage of the organizations. So, by the time the organization reaches the stages, it has become the somewhat successful and grown in size. This is now the growth has shown. Its structure is similar to that a formal bureaucracy with the formalized departments, supporting staff, then sub departments and the many professionals and the clerical staffs. So, a large set of rules and the procedures have been introduced. Authority is also given, has been effectively decentralized. The division of the labor has become the extensive. Normally, when it is expanded, I mean when the organizations are big, so definitely you have to go for the decentralizations. Now, the maturity stage, during the stage the organization becomes very large and mechanistics, almost everything are standardized, stereos, everybody knows what to do. So, a set of bureaucratic rules, your regulations and the policies prevail. So, although authority is formally centralized, but a few trusted employees are involved in the decision making process. Now, decision making is centralized, the division of the labor is highly refined. So, as a result of the rigid virtual hierarchy, the organization is on the brink of this stagnation, because sometimes the work is not going as per the desired level. So, at this stage the organization's attempts to become innovative and the flexibles. So, we have to bifurcate it, you have to think some of the innovative things to revive the things, and speed should come. As such, a decentralization authority within the lateral structures such as your liaisons of your personnels, task forces and the project teams. Thus, it is clear that an organization's structural characteristics undergo different stages of the organization's life cycles. So, as we have already seen that a lot of stages are there, and it is by virtue of any organizations they are supposed to go through these things. So, universal perspectives of the organization's design. The mechanism of the organization design is still not mature to offer the theoretical principles and proven practices which would encompasses a variety of organizations. That is as per the Lomas and the Misra 2003. However, there are universal perspectives of in the organization design. There are the bureaucratic models, then your behavioral models and your contingency perspectives. Now, fundamentals of the organizational structures where again the universal practices. Another thing now I have to little deeper in these things, that is the bureaucratic models, how these models are functioning. The Max Weber, a German sociologist, he conceptualized the idea of the bureaucracy. According to Weber, a bureaucracy is defined as organizational founded on a legitimate and formal system of the authority. The Weberian approach held that an ideal organizations should have the following characteristics. Number one, that a division of labor used for functional specializations, and then two is a well defined hierarchy of the authority so that the scalar chain of the command runs from the top to the bottom of the organizations. And third is a system of rules covering the rights and the duties of the employees. Then number four is a system of procedures for dealing with the work situations. 5, promotion and selection based on the technical competence. Whatever the promotion will be there, that is based on the performance, and your competency or skill levels has to be judged, and accordingly the promotion process there. 6 is your impersonality of interpersonal relations, how far you are to develop your relations, and there should not be any bias should not be there. All managers should conduct business is an impersonal matter. There should not be any personal matters. Maintaining an appropriate social distance from their subordinates. So, you have to focus on your only the organization's growth and what are the relations is required to be built. Again, it is in line with your work only and objectives to fulfill, achieve, how to achieve the objectives. That for that, what are the relations are required? The behavioral models. What is this? A model has evolved from the human relations, school of management, human relations of school of management. That different thoughts are there. In the classical bureaucratic model, an individual is not identified because in that time that was not considered earlier. Now, in this behavioral model, so it is to identify, and the effect of the entire group is considered in a total process of the management. So, on the contrary, in the behavioral model, the performance of an organization is believed to depend on the human beings, their behaviors, characteristics, and the mutual relationships emerging from work patterns and the organizational settings. Now, the important factors which play the significant roles, the needs, motivations, attitudes, values, leaderships, and the group behaviors, perceptions, communications, responsibility, and authority relationships. That is again it is as per the Lomas and your Misra. They have surveyed and they have their observations in 2003. In other words, the behavioral models of the organization design reflect the social and the your psychological implications of organizational life. The most popular behavioral models of the organization's design is your socio-technical system theory and the Likert systems approach the organization. Both the systems are mostly used by the most of the multinational companies. Now, the contingency perspectives. If the contingency is there, what type of perspectives you have to consider? The contingency perspectives of the organization design is founded on the premise that the best design for any organizations is depend on a number of structural factors. The most critical situational and your contingency factors are external environments, technology and your organization size. If the organization is very big, definitely it will that is one of the situations, and it will be the factory will come up, and the technology, the new technology, especially for the obsolescence and the obsolete and the new technology, how to adopt it and what are the effect will be for that also. So, further the organizations can be open systems or closed systems, but the system is set of the interdependent parts forming a organized whole. The open systems specially have a permeable boundaries and the constant interest and for the constantly interact. They are constantly interact with their external environment. Here the consideration is open system always based on the external things. What are the external environment is going on? Accordingly, you have to fine tune it, you have to modify it, you have to redesign, restructuring, rethinking, everything are based on the external. Basically, you have to have a good competitive company in them worldwide. Closed systems have no such transactions and with the external environment. They are self-contained and operate independently. They have operated it of the external environment. So, however, the modern organizations are open systems and interact with their environment. That is why I have highlighted the things. I have given some underline how the modern organizations are open systems. Now, the objectives of the organizations are derived from the overall strategy of the organizations. What the strategy company is taking. First things you have to decide what strategy you are going to be considered, and based on this you have to fix two objectives so that what are the strategy can be fulfilled. So, it is a natural an organization's design is closely linked with the strategy. So, you have to link with the strategy. During the significant change in the strategy, the organization's design need to be modified to accommodate and the support that changes. So, keeping in view of the changes, you have to think and you what are the needs are required, you have to accordingly have to modify the things. So, that is considerable empirical evidence to indicate the choice of the organization strategy is determined by the contingency factors. So, whatever the choice you are deciding, it is definitely it is based on your strategy, what type of strategy you are already determined. So, contingency factors are basically there. Now, there is some of the different determinants are given of the organizational design purposes. So, there are some see that is your external environments, then your technology, organization size. As I said already, there are three things to be considered. Let's say that chart is just like a one sort of a diagram basis it is shown. So, now strategy. A organizational strategy describes the organization's goals and the way of the organization expect to reach those goals. An organizational strategy may need to change as changes occur in the external environment. As I said, always you have to monitor the external conditions. Whatever the objectives has fixed or strategy have already taken, it is not a stable, it is unstable, because you have to time to time you have to consider external environment. Any organizations is surrounded by the general environments and the task environments. The general environment consists of basically your economic, technical, socio, culture, political, legal, and your international dimensions, which have an impact on the organizations and its task environment also accordingly. Sometimes you may be your production target you have to fulfill, you have to redesign the things. Maybe sometimes the production is less, the supply and demand, that type conditions there. So every time you have to take some of the strategies, and that things depends on the external environment also, because that supply and demands considering the economic conditions, maybe the environment conditions, political issues, legal issues, nationally and internationally also. The tax environment comprises of your customers, competitors, suppliers, and government agencies. So when I am talking about the tax environments, that is basically your customers and your competitors, suppliers, and government agencies. Now, stable environments, that remains fairly constant, but may not be very short periods, it may be. Unstable environment, which is subject to change and uncertainty, through their study of the different organizations operating in these two environments, they found that the organizations in stable environments tended to have a different kind of structure than those operating in unstable conditions environments. So as per the Barnes and the Stalkers, they called these organizations having two different forms of structures, basically mechanistics and the organic organizations. Now see what is the your mechanistic organizations is in many respects similar to Max Weber's bureaucratic organizations or Likert system of the organizations. As we have seen, the bureaucratic systems almost the same thing in the mechanistic systems, where everything are standard based on some of the rule and regulations, some of the policies based on these, everything are working, which is set by the top management. Now technology refers to the third factors we are discussing. The technology refers to the process by which an organization converts the inputs, that is basically inputs of people, material, equipment, money, plant and facilities. So inputs are accordingly you required from the technology point of view. The process may be mechanical, is in manufacturing organizations, or it can be a service to clients as in banks, hospitals and insurance companies. The process can also be largely mental, as well as the organizations that solve the problems or that create new ideas, products and the services, R&D organizations, advertising agencies and software development firms are the example of the this condition. That is your this type of organizations. Now the Alstom groups, as we know, the study conducted that they have in the Birmingham, they have already in the England, they have conducted some of the organizations. Size is more important than technology as a determinant of the structures, because if it is a big size, then different issue will be arise. If it is small, better we can implement the things. So, all these factors are perceived. Then unit and the process of the technologies work better with smaller span of the control, because when you are the span is smaller or small span, effectively you can do it. If it is a big, maybe sometimes the control problem will be there. So, so where is the mass productions technology? You are flourish with the wider spans of control and bureaucratic structures like this. So, routine technologies features bureaucratic structures, then your centralized decisions making that uses formal written rules and the procedures to guide the decisions. Now, universal perspectives of the design, again the technology part, again we are discussing about the technology part. Then organizations that use the complex, it is a complex, the non-routine technologies, there are no technology are in a routine way, have more departments, fewer level of authority and more participation in the decision making, then it is used for the routine technologies. For such organizations, an organic structure is appropriate, because when the everything are in routine fashions, so that is we can say it is a organic structure is appropriate in that case. New for information technologies allows for the reciprocal your interdependency among the parts of the organizations, which in turn flourish in the an organic structures rather than a bureaucratic one. Now, another factor is that is your size. Research tells us that the large organizations have different structural features than small organizations, because if it is size, maybe your structural systems may be systems should be robust, there should not be any loopholes, information flow of information will be faster, so lot of other things are there. So, typically the small organizations have little specializations, few formal written rules and procedures, and the narrow spans of the control. So, informal decisions, the process and a simple design, there may not be any complication. By contrast, when the large organizations tend to have a elaborate specializations is required, I mean the probability chances of failure or chances of miscommunication or any parts, chances will be more, probability will be more. So, may formal written rules and procedures, more formalized relationships and use of the decentralized forms. So, that is time you have to have a decentralized forms. More coordination, another thing is coordination is required, very very tough job, challenging jobs in a size, when the size is big. So, that is why some of the parameters we have the dimensions and different way you have to comparing the size matters. Now, Henry Mitzbach's topological for the integrations, that is the organization structures to contingency factors, he provides a clear understanding of the linkages between an organization and the business strategy and the organization design. Mitzbach, he believes that every organization has a 5 basic parts. The top management is created at the very top of each organizations. This part of it is also as a strategic apex. When we are talking about the top management, they are creating all these things. So, we can say it is a strategic apex. The middle management is founded at a intermediate level in the bottom of the in the technical core, So, which is normally we are calling as the operating core. Those are in the front line, or they are particularly in the operation department. So, there some of the diagrams are there, is the topological diagrams, the 5 basic parts of the organizations. You see there are some first thing, in the vertex you see the top management strategic apex, they are the strategy makers. Then after that the middle management, and it is supported by the technical professionals and your administrative support staffs, and finally the technical core area, that is the operating core areas. So, this is the way the directories and the hierarchy are shown. So, all you can say the basic 5 parts of the organizations. Now, simple structures. This form of structures, the firm, it is a small and the enterprises. The structure consists of a top manager and only a few workers, some of the assistant you can say rather. So, it is performing the overlapping activities. It is a simple structure like this. While there may be a very small administrative staffs, and then as per the your Bartlett and the Ghoshals, the 1992, they considering the studies of the strategy structures, relationship by the Chandler's 1962 and Stafford and the Wells 1972 and Daniels, Peets and the Taylor 1984. So, there are so many authors there. They generated the approaches to organizations designed because the complexity and the dynamic nature of the environments. So, why all these structures parts are people are thinking, because to cope up the situation of the environments. It depends, actually demands has made the structural fit, so that you can have a better operations. So, strategy structure linkage, it is a so that we can achieve the things. Second generations, the model is your organizational design. Then after the design has come, has been developed, which focuses on the management process that will make strategic decisions decision work basically. That is your that is a management process. Okay. Now, these second generation models are based on the basically the premise that all the structured forms are not equally effective in implementing a given strategy, and therefore, the role of the management is to create a internally consistent and the balanced design. Now, we have to see some of the new perspectives. What are the new things that we have to see? Design parameters for the second generations, and what type of models, design models. In order to create an organizational design that is internally consistent and balanced, some of the following design parameters can be used as per the Phillips and then 1995. The structural and the formal coordinative mechanisms, then systems and the tools, and then your cultural transformations, basically the socializations, normative integrations, all these things, structural and the formal coordination mechanisms, and this includes the basically our centralizations, formalizations and your specializations. These all are the new concept, new models. Then centralizations from or decentralizations, so it refers to whether the power of the decision making lies at the upper and the lower levels of the chain of the commands, because some of the things are when there is a big or different type of work is going on, and there are a lot of varieties work is going on, maybe the one person cannot take all the decisions. So you have to decentralize your power, authority. Basically, the decision making process, you have to decentralize these things. Basically, when the organizations are big and different units are in the different locations, so sometimes it is very difficult to control. So, formalizations, it is also called a standardization, because you have to standardize the things. Formalization means you standardize all the things. It indicates basically the policies, your rules, job descriptions, all should be are in the formalization process, where basically the standardize the things. And the degree of specializations, it refers to the number of specific tasks that are carried out through the separate and the distinct functions. So, when the organizations are doing some sophisticated works, or maybe it is a rather big company, some of the areas are very specialized areas, so some specializations is also required to cope up the situations and go for the growth purposes, and moreover the innovative market competitiveness. So, what is the important role of organizational strategy and the operational strategy? Organizational strategy as well as the operational strategy also. So, as a whole, overall broadly organizational strategy is there, and at the same time parallelly you have to see what are the operational strategy are taken. So, a small organization must seek to retain the advantages, and the small organizations, even when it grows in size and the complexity. So, there are several common features typically you can see the structural development in the organizations. So, some of the things are here. Actually, we have to see the increase in specializations and the level of internal differentiation in the roles, functions and the divisions. Then higher skills and the multiplicity of the occupations, increased use of formal system and the procedures, shifting the emphasis from hierarchical to lateral communications. That is even though it is the last point, but very important point. Then greater and in the middle level especially, that particularly the techno structures and the support services, greater increase in the number of people who supervise coordinated activities, that those who perform the basic tasks. Basically, when you are going for the restructuring strategy, so you have to see the areas, growing emphasis or delegation of the your decentralizing the power and all these things. So, it is also a part of decentralization, is also a part of your restructuring strategies. Earlier it was not there, now you are going for these things. Now, see what are the factors affecting the organization's structure. What are the factors? That is you see the organizational structures, the meaning of the organizational structures, the purpose of the organizational design and structures, theories of the things, and the other factors you have to see, and effectiveness. Now, meaning of the organizational structures, again the term of the organizational design refers to how various parts of the organization and the distinct elements of the we can have it brought together to make it, and it considers both how these elements match together and the ways in which they analysis and improved. The design aspects broadly it is include how the organization is structured, the types and the number of jobs, and the process of the procedures used to. that is handle and the pass informations, make the decisions, produce the results, manage quality, and then you communicate the information. What are the real communications are required? Then what are the plan, development, what are the resources are there? You have to manage all the things, innovate and handle the crisis situations. These all are the series of activities are there which are required. Then purpose of the organizational design, why it is required? So main thing is a so that it is efficient, because your organization should be more efficient and effectively the effective way can do everything. So that's why you have to provide some of the effective divisions of tasks and the accountabilities among the individuals and the groups. Everybody should have some accountables. They have to give their performance as the set by the objectives. Ensure the effective coordinations, that is also main things. So, and another thing is line of communications from down to top and top to bottom, both way. So communication should be bidirectionals. One way traffic, the communications may not be acceptable for a good structures or design structure of your organizations. Then the broadly an organization is designed to realize the number of objectives. These are basically the effective monitoring. You have to permit for the effective monitoring and the review of the organization's activities time to time. Audit system should be there. Then to endow with the mechanisms for coping with the change in the markets and products and the internal and the external environment. You have to see, observe what are the conditions, the market conditions, and to aid the handling of the crisis and the problems, because it has noticed, identified what are the problems, but there is no tools and tackles or no support systems or no aids are given, then problem will be remain. So main thing, the crisis and problems, that should be take actions an appropriate time to help to motivate, manage and give the job satisfactions to individual members of the organizations. And another thing is to provide the management successions, means the succession process growth, that also to be finalized in the time of your design. The design itself, that should be there. A good organization design should be along the some of the principles should be there. How do you define is a good design has prepared? So the various parts of the structure should be divided into specialized areas. So this is the things you have to first distribute. You have to see the specialist area where it is, the area is really required for the specializations. This specialized area then again need to be interlinked. The number of levels of the structures sometimes is referred to as a scalar change, should be as a few as possible, because if the hierarchy levels and the structure, the levels is more, then it may be hamper your work, day to day works, delay are to be, it leads to be delayed. So that's why level should be less, at least 2 or 3 levels is ideally good design, and that should be interlinked. Another thing, the span of control, the number of subordinates directly managed, so will vary according to the nature of the jobs and the organizations, but it should not be narrow. That is result in a structural too many levels or too broad is to allow the effective management. Now, unity of command, another aspect is your unity of command. For this, reporting positions and the authority need to be clearly defined. Every post of the structure should have a clear role. So, what are the posts and positions? That role has to be clear and fixed, and what are the added values are these things. Then should be centralized or decentralized, again it is need, based on the need to be really it are required for the decentralization or not. So, it has to be decided. Again it is depend on the your industry to industry, sometimes the geographical dispersions and the history, environment, resources available, accordingly you have to decide. The structure must be designed to take the account of the your changes in the environments. Then some of the basically there are two theories are there, your universalistic and your contingency theories. Earlier also we have discussed a little bit. Now, universalistic theory, that is, it assumes that there is a one best way to organize. It means the maximum organizational performance comes from the maximizations. For the instance, then especially from the specializations. The classical management is an earlier organizational theory that argue that the maximum organizational performance results from the maximum formalizations and the specializations. Hence it is considered to be a universalistic theory. Another is your new human relations, which claims that organizational performance is maximized by the maximization principles. Then your contingency theory, the structural contingency theory, it again contains, there are basically some of the core elements are there. First is there is an association between the contingency and the organizational structures. Second is contingency your determines the organizational structures, because an organization that changes its contingency, then in consequences changes in the structures. What are the consequences? Accordingly you have to take it. Third is there is a fit of some level of the organization structural variable to each level of the contingency, which leads to higher performances, whereas the misfit, it leads to a lower or bad performance. So, fitness is very important. So, fit performance is a relationship between the hard and the contingency theory paradigms. So, it provides the theoretical explanations of the first 2 points. Now, this selection of an appropriate design is resilient upon the several factors. However, the primary factors that often affect the design, structural design, that is your size is bigger is better model, environment, then your strategy, customers and the markets related matters, that is another factors are there. When you are preparing the design of structures, so you have to consider your customer and market, accordingly you have to fit in your organizations also. The organizational structure is also affected by the type of the market and the customers. So, it serves and the customers responsive environment, and the organization is providing the services basically to a broad range of the customers, and your large number of locations are there, different locations. So, it may need to have a many branch offices and do the just as like your banks, post offices, etc. Now, coming the processes. The processes used within the organizations also affect the structures. The production line process, it consists of a number of distinct tasks carried out by the people specializing in those tasks and different stages in the process. So, process are also one of the important things, or what type of process you think and what type of specialization peoples are required for to do this process. The people, that is also one of the people important, just like we can say the human. The people in the organization affect the structures in a number of ways. How? Structures do not just appear, they are in the result of the people's views and the beliefs that they are the approach to the managing the organizations. So, the structure is also affected by the type of jobs and people within the organizations. Geography is also another factor. The geographical spreading of an organization affects the structure mainly because of the need to be near the raw materials and the customers, because your organizations where it is located is important, because you need some of the raw materials and customers, but there are no nearby, no materials are available, or the connectivity are not accessible. People, the labor class of people who required worker, they are not abundant, that area is not things, you cannot hire the people, you can not bring. So, geography is also important part when you are, it will affect your structures also. Now, products and services also important, another factors. The structure may be determined by the particular products and the services provided at a large and the diverse organizations have the separate divisions, because they are dealing with the very different products and services. So, everything has to be integrated and coordinated in such a way, so that the product line and the service line should be streamlined. Basically, all this should be in a coordinated manner. Advantages of the product specializations, that is, it provides a focus on a specific area and encourages the development of the expertise in the provision of that product or services, and it is likely to provide a service that is more responsive and the customer requirement. So, some specialization is required for that. Some of the disadvantages also there. Too much focus on the product may overlook customers' real needs. So, if product should be good, the process is very robust and all the steps is maintained, all the standards you are following, quality, all these things. So, sometimes you forget about the need of the customers. It may be customize the things, means what are your product should be customized. So, that for that flexibility you should have, so that you can have a best use in the organization whatever the resources, and definitely good process is required, undoubtedly it is required, but keep in mind the customer's demands. Now, the actual the organizations are constructed to be the most effective and the efficient unit should be established, so that the actual effectiveness and the specific organization is determined by the degree to which it realizes and the goals. Really they have realized the things, they have to reach the goals. So, it is depend the actual, then only you can see the actual effectiveness. Here some of the survey and some of the observations are there. Different people or different authors have given some observations, and there Alexander and Randolph-Lee in 1985 they say the organization effectiveness can be defined as the ability of the organizations to attain the goals set by itself. Then in an annual in the most admired corporations, the survey they have the Fortune magazine, they have said some of there are 8 effective criteria is theirs. What are the criteria they have observed? The quality of the management, number 1, then quality of products, services, innovativeness, long term investments value, then your financial soundness, the company should have enough money, liquid money, or you can say the day to day work money, and then your ability to attract the development and keep the talented people, I mean retain the talent peoples. Then responsibility to the community and the environments, that is also another part, and wise use of the corporate assets. What are the assets you have? You are wisely using, logically you are using. That is all the points he has highlighted accordingly for the effectiveness basically. Then only you can have achieve the things. Moreover, the 4 effective criteria can be used for the various combinations, that is a goal accomplishment, resource acquisitions, internal process, and strategic constituencies, satisfactions, like this. So, I think now we have almost I cover up most of the things in the block 2. So, basically here today actually I try to observe that are structural matters. So, main thing when you are go for the any structures of the see the things, so keep in mind main things your environment internal and the external also. And if typically you have to observe the external part also, because there are a lot of aspects are there. It is not stable, it is a dynamic natures. You have to redesign the things, restructuring the things, so that you have to, and then there should be some of the structures should be there, and all the labels should have a fixed structures. Again, it is depending in your size, your type of business, type of the products. It is also effectively you have to see it. And main things, it should be one of the communication is also very important, so that you can communicate it. When you are fixed any process, now when you are considering the process, that process definitely you have to go through the latest process, and every process has a specific work is there, specific task is there. Maybe you require some of the specializations, some specialized area is required. First of all, you have to segregate it, what the specific areas where the specializations are required or not, and you have to adopt some of the procedure accordingly. But during these times, when you are in making this process, organization process, don't forget about the customer's needs. That is the highlighting the things in the here. So, you have to focus on the customer's needs. Anything. Another aspect that we have seen here from here, that is your locations, I mean geographical positions nowadays things. So, structural, when you are doing all these things, you have to see where you are, what are the resources you have, how best you can do optimizations, maximize your things. So, very logically you are what are the assets you are utilizing the things. So, this some of the few things are there, and some of the rules we have seen, how to best effectiveness, how to increase the things. You have to motivate your pupils, use some innovative sense of, you have to create some of the innovative parts, and your financially should have a strong enough, that part also you have to see, and moreover talented people should be retained in your organizations. So, all these those who are making the structural designing part, keeping on view all these things, because people is also there, those who are working there, they should feel comfortably, they should be flexible, and they should not be when you feel the rigorous process. So, this is the way we can now close the session. I mean, almost we have to cover up the things. So, looking forward for the next sessions, most probably tomorrow. So, okay, thank you very much. Thank you.